I lost my sister to cancer 11 years ago. She left behind her son Kai, who was 4, and her daughter Ella, who was 3. My sister was married to Luke, but when she became ill, she had turned to me and the rest of the family for help with her kids' inheritance. She asked that we buy her out of her share of the business our grandparents left us many years ago, so she could leave her kids money. We did just that, and it allowed her to leave a sizable sum for both kids. It's enough to cover college for both and leave them with money for something else. Or they could buy a house each. My sister just wanted them to have something real that could be there for them when she couldn't be. She ended up leaving me in charge of the accounts for the kids. Luke met his current wife 2 years after my sister died and married her within 6 months, and added 5 more kids over the following 3 years. They have struggled over the years. One of his stepchildren has physical health issues, another has special needs and requires a lot of therapies. Money is often tight. We have been made aware of this by him over the years. He didn't know about the money until he actually read the letter my sister left for him, which informed him of the existence of the money. Ever since he learned of it 18 months ago, he has been determined to get his hands on it. He has accused me of letting my nephew and niece starve when I could have dipped into the account, which I can't and which I didn't. They never starved. He said I was dividing his family and so on. He told me that money needs to be split 7 ways, that Mia was selfish for keeping the money from his reach, so he couldn't use it at all on his kids, that it was selfish of her to come between his family after she died, since he had been a loyal husband to her. One of his stepchildren ended up missing out on an opportunity due to lack of money. He tried to get my niece and nephew to ask me for money for their step-sibling to do it, but the kids said in front of him that they wanted to keep the money in the account, which angered him. He told me that I didn't have the right to do this, that his kids' money should be accessible by him, their father. I told him that the money my sister left for the children is nothing to do with him, that my sister made it so, and he needed to act like it doesn't exist, since it doesn't for anyone but my nephew and niece. Let's just say he wasn't happy. Am I the a-hole for what I said? Not the a-hole. His children with another woman have no right to that money under any theory I can formulate. Not the a-hole. I'm gobsmacked he thinks her inheritance should go to children that aren't hers. Not the a-hole. But really, were you in doubt on that point? You said it yourself. There's a reason your sister wanted you to manage the trust instead of Luke. It's because you're determined to make sure it goes toward giving them a good future, not covering basic necessities he should have considered before taking on so many kids. I, 35 female, have been married to my husband Mark, 37 male, for 3 years after 2 years of dating. Ever since I first met Mark, I made it clear that I did not want children. Don't get me wrong, I love children. I just never wanted to have one of my own. I had big dreams for my future, and I really didn't want children interfering with them. So I decided earlier on that I would be child-free. Sure, I'll love my nieces and nephews. I'll be the cool aunt, but I'll never, ever have my own children. Mark agreed with me. He told me that he wanted to remain child-free when we first started dating. He loves traveling to different countries, and having children would prevent him from going on frequent trips. So naturally, when we got married, I expected that children would never be an issue for us. Besides, I wasn't even sure if I would be able to have children, as I have very irregular menstruation cycles. Before getting married, I told Mark this, and it was firmly established that we would never be having children. So we got married, and life was great, at least until a couple of months ago. You see, our friends started having children. Many of them were getting married and having babies, and I guess it affected Mark in some kind of way. I mean, I guess you feel kind of pressure when your friends start doing something. The fact that our parents, both Mark's and mine, did not support our decision to remain child-free only fueled the problem. They never openly pressured us to have children, but they kept dropping hints that they wanted grandchildren. I guess Mark started regretting his decision not to have children. We got into many arguments because of this issue, which is very unlike us. It would always be the same. I accused Mark of changing his mind and breaking our agreement, and Mark would get defensive and say that he had the right to want children. Eventually, I became tired of this argument and let Mark convince me to go to a fertility clinic. I visited a doctor last month and got tested to see if I could still have babies. Results came in yesterday, and lo and behold, I can't have children. I'm infertile. And no, we couldn't try for IVF or something because there were some complications with my eggs. I told Mark immediately, and to my surprise, he got mad at me. We ended up fighting, and we both said some hurtful things to each other. He accused me of intentionally sabotaging his chances of becoming a father. He also said that I am an a-hole for not telling him that I am infertile before marriage. It has been 1 day since the argument, and he's still giving me the silent treatment, and I really don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole for this situation? Not the a-hole. Duck is wrong with him. There are tons of other options, including adopting. To be honest, it sounds like he wants a kid to keep up with his friends, which is a crap reason. Not the a-hole. You would have been the a-hole if you had known you were not fertile before marriage, because that is something that should be communicated. But this was not the case. You thought there was a chance you might not be fertile, and you communicated that. He was well aware of the score. Not the a-hole. It is one of the fundamental marriage decisions, and you were clear on where you stood before you married. Obviously, he thought he could change your mind if he cares about your fertility status now. You either need some marriage counseling stat or a divorce. My wife F passed away suddenly 7 years ago while she was pregnant with our first child. Was obviously completely devastating. We had been together for 6 years, plus close friends for another 5 before that, so I was pretty close with her family. After she died, my mother-in-law told me that no matter what happened, they'd always consider me family and would always be there for me if I needed anything. 3 years after her death, I ended up fostering twin siblings as a single parent, who I have since adopted. They were 3 at the time. As a first-time parent, my mom helped me out, as did F's parents. It started off pretty small, with them just coming by to drop off food and small gifts. But eventually they really ended up bonding with the kids, so much so that I decided they may as well be honorary grandparents to the kids. As I only have my mom, and I thought the more people in their life who care about them, the better. They've honestly been amazing grandparents to the kids, and my kids really love them. Anyway, about 2 years after I got the kids, I met my current girlfriend, L, currently 33 female. Recently, after 2 years of dating, I asked her to move in with me, and she moved in 2 weeks ago. I love her, and she's great with the kids. However, the kids' birthday was this week, and F's parents stopped by to drop off presents for the kids and wish them happy birthday, which was the first time she met them. Afterwards, she told me she thought it was inappropriate for me to make the kids call them Grandma and Grandpa, and that it showed that I was clearly still not over F, and that I saw her as their mom. And what else could be the reason I treated her parents like their grandparents? She said that the attachment I had with F's family was unhealthy, and I was pretending like she was still my wife and the mother of my kids, and it was bad and confusing for the kids, and that it makes it difficult for her to connect with them and see herself as a parent to them, because this makes her feel inadequate and like she's competing with F over kids F never even met. I don't really see how it's unhealthy or confusing, as I rarely talk about F to them, least of all treating her as their mother. They have got to the age where they've asked questions about how they are related to their grandparents, and I just tell them that we chose them to be part of our family, like how I chose them to be my kids. At this point, my ex-in-laws have been part of my kids' life for 4 years, and I feel like it would be more damaging to try and cut them out now. But I can kind of see where she's coming from, and I don't want to sabotage her bond with the kids either, as they've become very close. I don't know. Was I the a-hole for letting them be grandparents to them, and for refusing to stop it now, and not even at least slowly distancing the kids from them, as Elle suggests I could try to do? Not the a-hole, but your girlfriend is. There is absolutely nothing wrong with anything you've done. She's being manipulative and selfish. Your kids love them, and they love your kids. Do not let her step in and ruin yours and your kids' relationship with your ex-in-laws. I say lose the girlfriend unless she apologizes. Not the a-hole. How is this any different than if they were actually your biological children and your in-laws were actually their grandparents? What your girlfriend is saying makes no sense at all. She's just using it as a reason to alienate your late wife's parents. She can connect with the kids in her own way that has nothing to do with either your late wife or her grandparents. Edit. Update. Just wanted to clarify a few things. My wife and I never had biological kids. She died in an accident while pregnant, before the baby would be viable. I saw a few people confused about this, so wanted to clarify. The issue here is not them being non-biological. Thank you to the people who affirm that family is family regardless of blood. But if that was her issue, I would have never had any doubt that she's the a-hole, because I'm adopted. My kids are adopted. There are no blood relations here whatsoever. The issue she has is specifically that by calling F's parents the grandparents, she feels like I'm treating F as their mother and am prioritizing F over her. Obviously, she knew my kids before we moved in together. My kids really get along well with her and look forward to seeing her and spend time with her. I would never have moved her in if I thought she would be a bad parent to them, and she isn't, independent of this. She's just letting her insecurities about my late wife cloud her view. One of the main reasons I tried to see her point of view was that she was so good with them, and I didn't want the kids to lose their relationship with her either. But I see now that if they did, that's her fault, and something that's out of my control. People are acting like I was genuinely considering separating them. Like I said in the post, I'd already refused to do so or negotiate with her about this. My kids will always come first for me, and obviously my first instinct was to shut this down. But she made me feel like the a-hole for not being willing to budge at all on an issue that she was clearly very sensitive to. So I wanted to make sure that my first instinct was not the wrong one, which I am now reassured that it's not. At the end of the day, the core issue here is her being insecure about my relationship with my late wife. When making this post, I was genuinely trying to see her point of view and thought maybe it was normal for her to feel this way. Maybe I was the bad guy for not at least recognizing how our close relationship with my late wife's parents made her feel. Now I see that obviously it's not normal, and what's unhealthy is not me still having a strong bond with people who have been in my life and supported me for 18 years, but her feeling insecure and jealous of a woman who has been dead for 7. I will be doubling down and telling her that the kids in my relationship with F's parents is non-negotiable, and that I'm not choosing between her or them. I'm just maintaining 2 important relationships, and if she has a problem, then she's the one choosing her insecurities over me and the kids. Some of you have recommended articles, etc., that I will try to show her to get her to understand. While it's possible she may have specifically waited till after she moved in to press this issue, this was also the first time she'd ever met the grandparents and seen them interact with the kids and seen how close they really are, which I think is mainly what triggered this. I don't think she's a horrible, calculating, manipulative person like many people are suggesting. I think she's just deeply insecure and not able to handle being in a relationship with the widower as well as she thought she was. I think she thought that because my kids are not my wife's biological kids, that she could sweep my wife under the rug and pretend she never existed, and my in-laws being in the picture ruins that. But regardless of whether or not we had biological kids, F will always be a huge and important part of my life, and she needs to understand that. I'm not going to dump her, but I'm going to make my position crystal clear, and she can either be okay with it or choose to leave. So there's a lot to this story, and I have to give quite a bit of context. So growing up, me and my brother never really got along. Parents divorced. Our mom had to raise 4 kids on her own while going to work and school. I was the oldest and helped and took care of my siblings while he was a little crap, always getting into trouble and making her life hell. He would fight and hit me and my sister when we were young. As we were teenagers, he wouldn't listen, run away, and made our home life a living hell. I hated him so much. Eventually, as we got older, I couldn't handle living at home with him and our crap show of a family life and moved out. A few years later, moved back home, and we smoked together and started getting along. We were able to really talk out our problems and slowly started a friendship. Well, when I moved out, he started dating this girl. Let's call her Stacy. At that point, they were together a couple of years, and I started seeing her more and chatting with her and my brother. Over a year or so, me and Stacy became close, like best friends. There was never any physical attraction on my part, despite her being a beautiful girl, and was impressed with him. But my brother started getting jealous of our friendship, and we started fighting again. Ultimately, he cut me out of his life, and I did again. Well, this happened on and off for 3 or 4 years. At that point, me and Stacy would only socialize when me and my brother were on good terms. Other than that, we never saw or talked to each other. 6 years they're together. He proposes. She says yes. Everyone is happy. And then a month later, he moves to Arizona without her, or talking to her, and does a bunch of stupid self-sabotaging things. My family was embarrassed, but eventually she wised up and left him. While he was crushed and heartbroken, which really surprised me, me and Stacy started a friendship again, and became best friends. I'm close with her family, and great friends with her brother and sister. A few months ago, Stacy got married to a wonderful, kind, and considerate man who's also a best friend of mine. I was in their wedding, and I'm forever a part of their life. Now my brother hates me for staying close to her, and hates me even more now that he found out about the wedding. Some family have no issue with what I did, but I'm getting crap from other family, saying I should have never talked to her after the breakup. Am I the a-hole for being friends with my crappy brother's ex? Not the a-hole. He's your birth family. She's in your chosen family. Given that he was the one to ruin it for the two of them, I see no reason she needs to lose you too. Not the a-hole. You're not obligated to take your brother's side, especially after he cut you out of his life. It's his own sabotage that led him to where he is today. Not the a-hole. Based on what I'm reading about your relationship with your brother, it sounds like you're closer to her than you are to your brother, which is fine. If my brother were hanging out with my ex all the time, I'd definitely feel hurt and betrayed. But that's only because I'm really close with my siblings.